now we're going to start the roll call. Please listen for your name.
Candace Julian. Present. David Alexander. Present. Hello. Brian Lafferty. Victoria Camarota Couto. Present. Yesenia Cardona. Monty Castaneda's excused. Claudia Culture. Here. Cynthia Cox. Here. Harold Miller. Harold Miller. Monica Major is excused. Matthew Eugene is excused. Francisco Feliz. Helen Foreman Hines. Present. Isaac Heschel.
Here.
Barbara Sherman is excused. Jessica Ackerman is excused. Rita Jones excused. Rhonda Joseph. Here. Susie Tannenbaum. Present. Britannia Burchell. Here. Wayne King.
Present.
Gregory Hamburg.
Here.
Gideon Dunkley. Here. Joseph Pierre. Lachey Young. Here. Basmati Patel. Present. Taj Berrien is excused. Claudia Paris. Victor Reyes.
Here.
Tamika Robinson. Here. Christian Rodriguez. Present. Edwina Martin. Daria Soto. Dina Saxon. Edwin Mateo. Derek Tate.
Here.
Ariel Savransky. Here. Kevin Douglas. Here. Janet Dlugos. Linda Walters. Here. And Peter Weiss is excused. Name, please. Oh, Edwina, how are you? Yay, quorum! Yay!
It's bad when you get quorum, it's like a champagne topic. But I'm glad we have quorum. So good evening everyone. It's good to see all of you. Hope everyone had an enjoyable summer. It went pretty quick for a lot of us. Kids are back in school, but it's good to see everyone. I'm glad you made it here despite the hot weather. So if you would just turn to your agenda, there's a couple of items we need to go over. And if you remember our last meeting, we didn't have quorum, so there's a couple of items that were on the agenda for the last meeting that we do need to vote on, and a couple of items that we will need to recognize. So I'd like to try and go through it pretty quickly so it doesn't draw the meeting out The first in your meeting packet should be the minutes from our April 11th meeting. That was 2 meetings ago. So the April 11th meeting minutes are in your packet. We did not get an opportunity to vote on those minutes due to a lack of quorum at the last meeting. So hopefully you've had a chance to review it or are reviewing it now. Give you a minute, and afterwards I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes from our April 11th meeting. Everyone has it, so it's been properly motioned by Isaac Heschel. Is there a second? Seconded by Linda Walters. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those abstaining, objecting, there being none, so moved. Thank you for that. All right, and a bit of board correspondence. Need to help me out on any of these individuals.
They're all except for Claudia. Is Claudia Perez here?
Okay, so Cynthia Cox is here?
Yes.
Yes, oh, hi Cynthia, we met last meeting, okay.
Rhonda Joseph.
And Rhonda Joseph.
Back.
Got it, okay. So, we want to recognize these 2 new members. Cynthia Cox represents Bronx, Queens, NAB Bronx 4, and Rhonda Joseph represents Brooklyn, NAB Brooklyn 17. So I'd like to entertain a motion to accept both of these new members to the CAB.
David Alexander, so moved.
It's been properly moved.
Second, Speaker Robinson.
It's been seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstaining, there being none, so moved. So for Cynthia and Rhonda, we both welcome you to the meeting. Are there any remarks that you would like to address to the CAB? I'm not sure if I had the opportunity to have you do that last meeting, but if you'd like to say a few words quickly, we'd be happy to do so.
So, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I want to really thank each and everyone for voting for me, because I truly am overwhelmed by it. It's exciting to know that people know me, and I don't know, but God knows they know me, so I'm so thankful. And I also have to thank Anita. She is a hard worker. You got to give Anita a hand. She's really. So anyway, thank you, and God bless, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Okay. Nita, if you can just pass the mic.
No, she
So
doesn't
just
want
thank
to.
you.
She just said
Thank you and
thank
good
you.
night.
Okay, got it. Got it. Well, we thank you for your service. All right, so next up. Okay.
Anita?
Yes.
I think you mispronounced my name.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My name is Claudia Coleman.
Coher. The G is like an H. I'm sorry.
Claudia, where are you from?
Queen.
Okay, yeah, you're not the Claudia we were looking for. Thanks for
No,
clarifying.
there's another Claudia Perez.
All right.
Gloria
The
Perez.
All right.
representative of,
Okay.
for Manhattan and Staten Island.
And we have another new member to recognize, is Yesenia Cardona here? Yes. Hi, Yesenia. So Yesenia represents Region 4, NDA Bronx 7 and 8 as their representative. So I'd like to entertain a motion to accept Yesenia as a new CAB member.
So moved, Linda Walters.
It's been properly moved
Second, David Alexander.
and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstaining, there being none, so moved. Yesenia, we welcome you to this body. Would you like to say a few words to the CAB?
Yeah, the director, I'm just happy and humbled to serve and represent Region 4 and the community action work.
Thank you, and we welcome you. Yeah, let's have a hand for all our new members as this body grows. We appreciate your service. All right, so we have a reappointment of representative and alternate for the Bronx Borough President's Office, Ruben Diaz. Representing that office is Monica Major and Angel Dowd. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes.
Okay. So this letter from the Bronx Borough President's Office reads, Dear Commissioner Chong, please be advised that I have reappointed Monica Major, my Director of Education and Youth Services, as my representative to the New York City Community Action Board. This appointment is effective immediately. Angel Gal Jr., Education Liaison, will serve as Ms. Major's alternate. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me directly. Sincerely, Ruben Diaz's office. We also, for Councilmember Eddie King's office, Britannia Burchell. Hi.
And Brea.
And Brea. So I'm going to read this letter. This letter is to confirm the appointment of Britannia Burchell, am I pronouncing that correctly? As my primary council staff representative at the New York City Department of Youth and Community Services, Development, CAB meetings, and Brea Great as my secondary staff representative. Thank you for your attention regarding this matter, and feel free to contact myself or Chief of Staff, Asia Hernandez, if further confirmation is required. Sincerely, Councilmember Andy King's office. And next, we have, okay, so we're slipping down for United Neighborhood Houses, their representative coming from the Executive Director, Nancy Waxstein. Dear Commissioner Chong, I am writing to inform you that Gregory Bender, our Deputy Director for New York City Policy and Advocacy, will be United Neighborhood Houses' new representative to the Department of Youth and Community Development Community Action Board. Kevin Douglas, Deputy Director for New York City Policy and Advocacy, will serve as an alternate in the event Mr. Bender is unable to attend a meeting of the CAB. We look forward to our continued participation on the CAB under the new administration. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions. So those are the three members there. I'd like to entertain a motion to recognize those three members to the CAB. The property motion, Isaac Heschel.
Second, Tamika Robinson.
Seconded by Tamika Robinson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstaining, there being none, so moved. We welcome you all to the CAB, just like the previous new appointees. Would any of you like to address the CAB at this time? Tanya, anything you'd like to say? Okay. Shy group. And Kevin Douglas is here. Right here. Oh. Kevin, there's no introduction needed. Anything you want to say to the CAB? Okay. All right. It's good to see you. All right. I think we took care of all of that.
Yep.
Okay. So, one thing, we accepted the minutes of the April 11th meeting. The minutes from our June 14th meeting is in your packet. We cannot accept the minutes of that meeting because we did not have a quorum in the previous meeting, but they're in your packet for your review, so it's there for you to review. But based on the rules and the bylaws, we cannot accept the minutes for that meeting due to, let me rephrase, especially for the purposes of the recording. They're recorded as notes and not even minutes. So there are recap notes of the previous meeting. So if you'd like to take a look at that, that's in your packet. We also need to vote on the calendar for fiscal year 2019. That's in your packet. DYCD did the best job they could to take into consideration all of the holidays and religious observations. As in the past, if anything comes up that appears to be a conflict, please bring it to DYCD's attention or to my attention or anyone on the executive board. As in the past, we will make the necessary accommodations. We do not want to schedule meetings on any holiday or religious observation. But I think we've pretty much covered it in terms of scheduling out 2019. So if there aren't any other questions, I accept the motion now to accept the fiscal year 2019 calendar.
Second.
Need a motion first.
So moved.
All right, it's been properly moved.
Second.
Second, just state your name, please.
Oh, sorry, Helen Martins.
Okay, got it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstaining, there being none, so moved. So next up, kind of take a little slight direction in the meeting. I'm going to ask Gian to come up to the front. So Gian, I'm putting you on Front Street, man. Gian, as you know, is the liaison for the NAB and CAB, and we work closely as a CAB body and as an executive board with Gian. It has been a pleasure to work with him, and his hard work is paid off as he has been recently promoted to be the program manager for the Runaway homeless youth. So let's give him a hand. It's something that's near and dear to his heart, and I'm just excited that DYCD recognized your commitment and have faith in you to oversee that program. And that's one of the programs, as a lot of you know, that is part of the portfolio here at DYCD, and we talk a lot about it. And now Gian is the man who's going to really be in charge of that program. So we really wanted to recognize him for what he's done, but I also want to come up with the help of the Deputy Commissioner, present Gian with a certificate, and it reads, the Department of Youth and Community Development with the New York City Community Action Board, CAB, hereby present Gian Peralta this certificate in great appreciation for the many years you have given to the Community Action Program through your work as NAB and CAB liaison to the Community Action Board and the Neighborhood Advisory Boards. Your efforts on behalf of all those in our community have helped make New York City a better place for all. Presented on this day, the 6th of September, 2018, signed by the Deputy Commissioner Sandra Gutierrez and myself, Greg Hambrick, Chair of the Community Action Board. Gian and I probably get along more because he's a fellow Giants fan. But let's give Gian a hand for all this.
Not really good with sleep. I just want to say thank you to everybody on this project that you guys still doing with the community needs assessment and everything else. This is important for the communities. Just keep that in your minds every time you're going out there to do surveys or having meetings. We need to have more programs and services in these communities in need. And I appreciate meeting all of you guys. And even to the new people here, this is a great group of people. You're in great hands. And just continue to be successful and continue to bring back to your community. There's a lot of needs out there, and hopefully with this program we can alleviate those needs. Appreciate it. Thank you guys.
I actually just wanted to say thank you, Gian. Everything. I just wanted to say something quick about Gian. I know he's real shy and does all this stuff. But, you know, when he told us that he was going to go to RHY, even though it was going to be a loss for us, we knew that there was a little part of Gian that we weren't, that there was something missing in this. It wasn't close enough. It wasn't close enough to the community and being out there. And he kept saying, I need to be out there, I need to be out there. So I think you found your little niche where you need to be. And I think you're going to do very well because you have the biggest heart. Yes. And we've always known that. So congratulations. I think you're going to do well.
Congratulations. Okay, next up we'll have our financial quarterly report presentation. Is that you, Mike Bobbitt? Okay, this time it's going to be done by Mike Bobbitt. Or maybe not.
I'm not reading the report. I just spoke with a woman with Janine Fedora, who's our Chief Financial Officer. Unfortunately, she was involved in a very unanticipated transit delay, and so she's not able to be here. So our Chief Financial Officer is going to give this evening's financial report, but what she wanted me to convey to you is DYCD has taken the input and the feedback from the CAB, and I know that you wanted to see percentages reflected. So she did say, if you look at the report now, you see that we've tried to conform the report in keeping with what's been asked for recently. She sends her apologies. She asks any questions that you may have about tonight's report, you can convey those back to the staff, and the next CAB meeting we'll do a more thorough financial report, okay, and we can continue if there's other feedback. We're out the way this has been arrayed. So again, her apologies. Sometimes these things happen.
No, absolutely, fair enough, and we thank you for that, Mike. So the report is in your packet, and what Mike was referring to is that they amended it to include the percentages. That feedback came as a result of some feedback about previous meetings, so I think that's going to help to kind of dissect the report a little bit easier. So we're going to need to vote on the report, but if there are any questions on the report, please let us know at the end of the meeting or send us an email. This has happened in the past. We'll be happy to revisit the report and answer any questions you may have regarding anything that's on the report. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the financial quarterly report. It's been properly moved. Getting Dunkley. Second. Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, abstaining, there being none. I'm sorry. So we have one abstain, just state your name. Kevin Douglas. One abstain from Kevin Douglas. Anyone else? Okay, so moved. Thank you. Next up is going to be our Commissioner's report from our Deputy Commissioner Sandra Gutierrez. Mike's all yours.
I was whispering. Does this work? Yes? So, I'm back. So, I was saying to some of you already that I'm so sad. Look, it's dark outside, and I don't like when the summer ends, but we have so many new and exciting things to do this year based on the strategic plan that we told you about in the last few years and have kept you abreast of. So, the first, this report is going to be interesting because it has a bunch of little pieces that we did, and I didn't want to take a long time to talk, so they're like little snippets of news, if you will. So if it sounds choppy, it's intended to be. So with SYP, you may or may not know that the city council and the mayor and DYCD have been working very hard to change the SYP programs, and particularly the workforce programs. So that whole workforce portfolio that we have has been rebranded. And we had to do something about the rebranding of that, of the workforce portfolio, because it really wasn't attractive to kids, to young people. So we did some focus groups, we consulted with the young people, and ended up rebranding all the programs. So what used to be OSY is now Train and Earn. What used to be the in-school program, or ISY, is called Learn and Earn. And the Young Adult Internship Program, which used to be called YAI, as you can see, young people would have gone for that, right? Is now Intern and Earn. You have a brochure in your packets that tells you, that shows you how it was rebranded, but also you can look at it on our website. Also, in keeping with the SYP news, we did employ 74,300 young people this summer. That was pretty close to the target, because I think the target was 75, Mike? It was 75. Now, when you think about that, that's pretty amazing, because sometimes the young people don't show up at the work site, so you have to get other, you have to keep working at those lotteries and whatever programs those young people are in. The other thing is that we had 13,700 work sites. That's quite a few work sites. Again, we not only hit the target, but we went above the target. The cost of that program is $126 million, and 4.6 of that comes from the CSBG funds. Our refunding application was handed in on August 1st. That was signed by the chair, Greg Cambrick, and submitted to the state. You can refer to that in your packets. It's in there. On the federal budget, the update on the federal budget is that there was a minor reduction on funding levels. It was like 1% only. The New York State Department of State bore the cost of taking that cut. And then in FY19, they passed the cut along to the community action agencies. But this will not hurt the CBOs because DYCD will absorb that 1%. So no worries. Recently, we hosted a meeting with the NISTA, regional meeting. There were two pieces of, they did a few things in that meeting, but two things of interest that I thought that would be of interest to you. One was that they're going to start this online training for community action agencies to do all kinds of training on board development, on recruitment, retention, all kinds of different, various issues or concerns that the community action agencies have. And I thought that was really important because a lot of times we can't get everybody in a room, in one room to train them, so that you can get online and be trained, and also not just our community-based organizations, not just us, but also the NABs, that we could all participate in a training that where we all have the same language, where we all have the same expectations. So I thought that was great. I'm excited for that to come out. It hasn't happened yet, but we will let you know. We'll email you because I think it will happen before the next meeting. The other exciting piece of news from the state had to do with the 2020 census. And the 2020 census, they did some explanations there, which we want to invite somebody from the 2020 census to come and do a presentation at DYCD. But they really explained what happens when people don't get counted. I can't go through that whole presentation here, but it was really, really interesting the way that they explained it. And basically, if you don't get counted, it really doesn't, it ends up somehow affecting funding somewhere in your local community because that head did not get counted. That's sort of an overview statement of it, but they went into all the different ways that could happen. And when I heard it, I was, at first it bothers me that people don't get counted. I didn't actually know why. When I left that meeting, I was alarmed. So, the thing about the census is that counting is important and that we get out there and help people to feel, lower the anxiety around being counted. But the other thing that's going to happen is that there's going to be 20 to 25,000 jobs, community jobs. And those jobs are going to be for people who live in local communities and know the community. So we will give you the information about the enumerators and what they're going to be doing. But the woman who is now she's the deputy secretary, right? Yes. She said that was her first job, and she said that was one of the best jobs that she had. She said she learned amazing skills. So with this information, we're going to go back to our workforce people at DYCD, And we're going to see what we can do with the Census Bureau to see how we can have some of the young people that are in our programs fill those jobs. But beyond that, I think people from the NAB, you know your community, who should be out there getting these jobs that people trust. That's the important part, right? The other piece was that they had a link, and they showed in the map where were the areas that people were not being counted from the last census. So what they're going to do is that's where they're going to hire a special group of people to go out into those particular communities. And guess what? We're gonna compare the maps. Whether if our NDAs are the same as where there's sparse communities like that, and then we'll figure out whether or not we'll let people know if in your area you need more help or you need to figure out how you could help. The big thing here is that we're not allowed with federal funds to do voter registration, right? You're aware of that? Well, with this, we are allowed, and actually the state encouraged us to do it. So if you have any more questions, actually you have, in your packet, you might have a handout in there that gives you more information. We're gonna try to get the PowerPoint that they presented to us so that we can send it to you or give you more information on this. I think this is very exciting. If you remember, I'm on to the next thing now. So if you remember in the strategic plan, we really wanted to align the CAB with the NAB. So there's a lot of documents all around DYCD, institutional documents. But what we didn't find was where was the link between the NAB and the CAB. And we thought that was really, really necessary. So we made it part of one of our strategic points to focus on. And so one of the things that we're going to do is we have, and Anita will talk after me more about this, but what we've done is we've created an organizing mechanism so that there's 4 themes throughout the years for each of the 4 meetings. Now, you know that NABs have more meetings than you have. So what we're going to do is combine the themes or align the themes. This first theme is all about elections. So what we'll be doing is, that's different than you've experienced before, is that at our meetings, we'll tell you what's happening. Anita will be the person to tell you what's happening in the NABs around elections. Where do we need your help? How can we, maybe there are questions that we have that we're not getting answers from that particular NAB, but we may need the answers from you because you have an overview or meta view of that local community. We're going to continue to align the two, the CAB and the NAB, and I have a little exercise prepared last time. We're not going to do it today because I'd rather have you listen to what Anita's going to say. I know, because of time, we won't do it today, but the next time we'll be doing an exercise, I promise. One of the things that's been happening over the last, 6 months, Anita, the Ambassadors Project?
Yep.
So one of the strategic pieces that we had was to do the Ambassadors Project. And that was basically, if you remember, we did the community needs assessment in 2016, and then we're going to do one in 2019. Well, we thought that was just too far apart for the community to still be invested in the survey and what the information that came out of the survey. So we, midpoint of that, we did this Ambassadors Project where we, with the CBOs, we went and we asked them, were the things that came out in that survey, were they still resonating with the community? And if there were different things, what were they? That was an attempt to keep the data fresh. And we squeezed everything out of that data. We used it in all kinds of different ways. So we wanted to do that. But the community conversations was also with the NEDs. They went around and they had listening tours of their local community to find out what were people talking about, what was upsetting them, what were the things that they were concerned about, and it was basically done like they were basically listening tours, and they had to tally how often a particular issue came up: education, after school, health, whatever. So this survey is not going to be the data that we collected in the community needs assessment. It's not going to look like that. It's going to be much more fluid. Ooh, it sounded like somebody was talking, but there was nobody there. Okay. So the point of this whole ambassadors project and community conversations was to continue these conversations with community. We can't stop having them because there's no data collection. That is not the reason to do this work, right? It was a way to keep everyone engaged and in the conversation and getting ready, preparing them for the 2019, which, by the way, right after the analysis of all of this is done, we will start, and Anita will tell you about that. We'll start the next CNA. We actually ended that at National Night Out, where we had 35 NEBs participate in National Night Out, and we had about 30 staff to volunteer at those events all around the city. The commissioner made a request, and people really stepped up to do that. But I want to give a big shout out, huge, big shout out to David Alexander. Because let me tell you what David did. He's gonna try to act shy and everything. But let me tell you what he did. He learned that in Brooklyn 16, they weren't gonna have a representative. He took himself to Brownsville, got a table, and tabled by himself in Brownsville. That is community development. That is really amazing. When I heard that, I was like, you know what? That does not surprise me about David, because he always show up. He always show up. And you know, we talk around here all the time about this notion about community development. And when I came to DYCD, for those of you who were here, I said, I think maybe in our first time that we spoke and then I met you, was that most of the heart of what we do is showing up. If you don't show up, it don't mean nothing. You could talk in your kitchen about all the problems in the community, but you gotta show up. And David always does that, so thank you, David. We love you. So in closing, I wanna thank you all for your continued commitment. We had a lot more news, but we took it out because we didn't want to take any more time. The last thing I want to say is that you need to stay tuned for the new member orientation in October, which will be here. Any questions? Nada? Okay. Anita.
Okay, so also a shout out besides David Alexander, we have many CAB members here who also participated in the National Night Out and who weathered that magnificent thunderstorm that came through right in the middle of it. So we thank you for your efforts for that. As Deputy Commissioner Gutierrez said, or Sandy said, we're trying to align the NEBs with the CAB in their function, and also to tighten up the administrative part of the CAB, and also to have the members take on more responsibility and leadership within their communities. And that's what the Ambassador Project was about, was during that listening tour that they got out in the community, and the community knew, yes, this is the NABs, this is the Neighborhood Advisory Boards, they advise DYCD on the anti-poverty programs in our neighborhood. So that was a great success as part of that program, so we want to continue that. So we broke up the meetings. We're supposed to have meetings every quarter. Every 3 months we have, as many of you who were on the neighborhood night and who are still on the neighborhood advisory boards now, every 3 months we're supposed to have a meeting, so that's one meeting every quarter. We have extra meetings when we do the needs assessment, when we do special projects like the Ambassador projects, when we have training, but it's those 4 meetings every year. So what we've done is the first quarter is actually the community leadership quarter. And what that entails is electing officers who will be the team that holds the board together and works with the DYCD Liaison on the projects that they have to do. So the goal of that is to set up the officers for the calendar year. And to set them up as this leadership force. But part of that is reflecting also on what happened the year before. So what we call that are pluses and wishes. No negativity here. We wish what we had done last time. We're not going to say that was horrible. No. We're going to keep this positive. And then talk about things that we would like to do. They're also going to be trained in the function of officers, following Robert's Rules of Order, like we do here on the CAB. And then they're going to learn what the nomination process is, how to nominate the officers. Maybe we'll have a few real elections in some of the board. And they'll also, there'll be also, we're going to try and get like a commitment ceremony when the officers are elected to say, yes, these are our officers, these are the people we're going to rally around and go forward with the work that we have to do on this board. So that's all going to be in the first meeting, and it's also going to be the calendar setting. So just like you voted on the calendar for this year, the NAB is going to vote on their calendar for the year, so they will always know when those meetings are coming up, and those are the meetings that they have to attend. So it won't be some nebulous thing like a meeting on Tuesday one time, a meeting on Monday another time. It's going to be set for them. So I just wanted to show you how all of this brainstorming happened in Sandy's office one day in one of our staff meetings. We had papers like this, one for each of the quarter, and each staff member was writing down the ideas for each staff. And out of that, Booker, who has to read everybody's handwriting and figure out what we're talking about, we put it onto paper. So we're working from that. Besides that election meeting, which is the first real meeting, we will have another meeting that's a meet and greet that we will bring the providers that are from that MDA will come and present on what they're doing in their program, what they plan to do for the next year. And this is going to happen every year, the same way. Because as you know, the members who are on the neighborhood advisory boards, that you vote every year for your officers.
And the CAB will be invited to that.
The CAB is always invited to every single neighborhood advisory board meeting. You get a letter, your representatives get it. The people who represent those particular NABs. However, the rest of the CAB, those of you who are representing elected officials or corporations or nonprofits, what we're going to do is we're going to send you out the invitations as well. Just like in your package today, you have a list of every single NAB, their roster, and the vacancies that are there. We're going to send you a list of every single meeting so that you can see. This also goes on the website. As soon as we set up the meetings, it's on the website that week. So you can always see, if you're interested in a particular area, you can always see when those meetings are happening. But these special meetings, like the meet and greet, so that you can see what these programs are doing and how they're working and what their pluses and wishes were for the year before, that you will always be invited to. So all of this is organizing the work. And that's the best way it should be. So in quarter 2, we're going to have, it's called Each One Teach One. And what that is that's where the training is going to be. So quarter 2 is like January going forward. Most of the trainings and orientation on what it is to be a member, other trainings that maybe the CAB may be having, like we're planning one for parliamentary procedure. We would like the NEPs to participate. In the spring, we have the Roma training, and I'm happy to say that my colleagues here at DYCD who run that fantastic Roma training, I don't know how many of you attended, but I know Mr. King was there. Was it good, the Roma training in May?
Yes.
Yes. And they're here helping us out today because we're short-staffed because Gian is in another place. And Jorge and Susan couldn't be here, so we needed help to set this meeting up. So they came to help us without question, without blinking an eye. But they give a terrific training on Roma, which is how the programs are evaluated and how they are managed. And if you haven't attended that, I suggest when the schedule goes up, it's usually during the program committee's May meeting. So each committee is going forward here is going to be sponsoring some kind of training, and we're going to include the NABs in it. And with the Each One Teach One, it's the CAB with the NAB together teaching each other. And then quarter 3 is community development and community involvement. And it's to prepare the NAB leaders to involve the community in the next community needs assessment. And it's going to be modeled after the participatory budgeting that the city council does as well, so that all the communities involved and all the community can come to the meetings. All of these meetings, even this CAB meeting, are open to the public. Anybody can come. You can bring friends if you want. You can bring relatives if you want. And the NAB meetings are the same way. And we need to be more out there in the community so that when anybody hears about an NAB or neighborhood advisory board, they say, oh yeah, those are the ones that advise DYCD on what programs are in this community. So we're trying to work all of that through. And then the last quarter is to engage the community. So that's the spring going into the summer, that's National Night Out, that's the Spring into Health, that's any street fair, any block party, anything that's happening in an anniversary. Like at the end of the month, I'm going to the St. Mary's Housing Project's, their 65th anniversary. So that's in the NDA Bronx 1. And they need members. If you look on your sheet, and that's where we'll be recruiting. NAB Bronx 1 will be recruiting at that event. So all of these events, we're going to have the NABs involved, and they're going to tell us what's going on in the community so that we know. And this will make easy work for the next community needs assessment, which will begin in January of next year, very soon. Question?
I have, I believe it's 4 or 5 community-based organizations that are being funded by DYCD. Those organizations are going to come to a meeting to tell us what they are doing, how they're interacting with the community. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, what they do, usually what happened in the past is after the contract was awarded, they would come to the neighborhood advisory boards and present and say,
Okay.
we won this contract, this is what we plan to do with it, and this is how we're going to run the program. So that was all future looking. What we're trying to do is make it an annual event so that they come and they say, this is what we thought we were going to do, but we changed it, we're going to do this now, or this is what the outcome was in our programs. You know, so many people got served, the program was fantastic, and we had more than we thought we would serve come into the program. You know, whatever is going on in that code, then they would project again for the next year. So it's a way of connecting the two together.
Are they, if the NAB requests that they come, are they mandated to come? Do they have to come? Because we've given them, I've seen it before, and everybody didn't show
Yeah.
up. I mean, the community. the
So
organization.
we're working with community action programs. Those are the program managers to get their sites to, the programs to come out and be responsible to the neighborhood advisory board. I've done various, they have provider meetings here every few months or every quarter or so, and I've come and explained, these are the people that said that you should get the contract. They read the proposals and they make the priorities in the community. You should come and just say hello and say what you're doing. So we're working hard to make that happen. And we're going to make, because I know what you're saying, because I've seen it, that a couple of programs will come and maybe some others won't, and you'll never see them, you know. So we're trying to make sure that they know that that's part of their responsibility is to report back to the NADs and the community.
The last question. The programs that are funded by DYCD in schools, are they required to come too?
No, they're asked to come, but, you know, we would ask any program to come, but what we're talking about really right here is the NDA programs, the CSBG program. But we would love it if everybody came. Yeah.
I wanted to focus just on the first quarter. Sorry, Victoria Camarada Curto, MPA, Region 14. If we focus just on that first quarter,
Yeah.
we're talking about right now
Yeah.
to what date? Like the end
Till
of
December.
December. And then when you're asking these funded programs to come for the meet and greet, are we doing it at the community boards meetings, or are you doing it at a special venue? Is there anything where they meet and greet, wherever they are in the library?
Yeah, it depends on where the NAB meets, or usually meets. So they might pick a bigger site because they're expecting more people.
So are they allowed to bring things to eat? Because depending on the site, we have to have the structure so that there's some, flexibility for food and
Can I
drink.
answer?
Sure.
So, what we want to do is, we're not gonna, I have a problem with mandating. Anytime I get mandated to do something, I don't want to do it. So, it don't matter how cool it is, I still don't want to do it because you mandated me. So, we really do want to inspire people to come to these meetings and to be, because once people learn of a good thing in community, then everybody must come. That's the way I see it, and that's the way I've always done the community organizing. So to your question, we're not going to micromanage how these NABs do their work. What they have to do, what we're doing on this side to support them, is that the people that are the liaisons will be facilitating. Now, in the past, what I have found was that the liaisons were doing a lot of work at the end. So I've told them, they need to step back. You need to step back because the chair, that leadership has to figure that out. What we will do is that Anita and I are designing some guidance for all the liaisons to go and facilitate a process with the leadership and the NABs where they will plan their event. So maybe they won't have food, maybe they won't have food, maybe they'll decorate the room, maybe they'll send out invitations that are fancy, but maybe they won't. We don't know. What we will do though is afterwards we'll find out how they did and how proud they are of their work. So you have two CBOs come and you want to complain? Okay, so what do you do next time? That's better. That's different. That's a different kind of recruitment. The other piece that complements this is what I told you before, that the state is doing these online trainings. So what we're wanting to do is get the community riled up to do its own work. We're there to facilitate, support, build structures that people can walk into and feel safe to do. We've sort of departed from that, and I don't know, I've had different conversations with different people about how community development has really changed because of social media. Now you can text, right? You don't have to show up. Well, you know what? That's how people get elected that you don't want there. So, how do we get back to where we needed to go? We inspire people, influence people, we remind them whose shoulders we're standing on in order to get this done. So I hear your concern. Some of these are gonna fall flat on their face, but for the most part, we believe that our role this year, going forward, and this is the reason why we've organized the work this way, is to give back the work to the community. We are there to guide, we will be resources, we'll give you whatever you need to make that thing happen, and we will be there with you, but you've got to design it. That's not our job to do.
Can I follow up?
Sure.
More question for you. So in my particular area, over 3, there are lots of vacancies that we haven't addressed yet. So that's very important to get to, because if you have no one on the board, that's a problem, the NAB. Or if you have 1 or 2, that's not really fair to whoever's on that board to kind of orchestrate this meet and greet and get everybody, community board members on. Like, it's just too much. So we need to be able to delegate in some areas, someone from the office to help with that. Because
we got that. Actually, we called you a bunch of times because we needed your help.
No, I'm sorry.
Gian.
I remember telling everyone that I was away.
So we called you because we are right here. So, right, Gian? So I know what area you're talking about, and we kept saying, how are we going to get this place? Anyway, but that's
it's politicians that are having this. I mean, one phone call. Why isn't my state senator putting somebody on board? It's such a simple thing.
So let me say that your area is kind of a special case. So I don't want to, hold up this meeting.
I'll tell you what we're doing.
It's not about holding it up. It's just I'm surprised that.
I'll tell you what I'm doing now.
Yes.
Yeah.
The community board meeting is on September 17th. That's where I'm.
Speaking to the mic in here.
Exactly. Community board meeting.
The community board meeting is on September 17th. That's where I'm going to start, because at the community board meetings, the elected officials are there, the community members are there. So I'm going to start in their public session and give a little spiel, and I'll sit there and wait through the whole meeting with applications and informations on being on the board.
Exactly.
And that way, and cards that I can give out that they can get in touch with me. We're going to start there. Then we're going to go to the programs funded by DYCD, like the Cornerstones, the after-school programs, and other places like that. We're gonna go there, and then we're gonna go to the libraries. There's 2 libraries in that NDA. We're gonna sit there and talk to people, and then we're gonna see. All we need to have a functioning board is 7 people. We'd like to have 12, but 7 is the functioning board. So, one way or another, before the end of the year, we're gonna have a functioning board there. And then the other board, Coney Island, we're gonna make sure that we have even more people there. We do have a board there, but we need a few more people on it to make it really function well. So those are the priorities. That's the triage that we're doing now. What we're asking you to do with the list that we gave you is just if you have any connection with any of those elected officials, or if you have people that you know in those areas, just talk to them about the board. We have the brochures outside. We have the NDA pamphlets that talk about the programs that are being funded at this time. The information is there, and then we're a phone call, an email, a text away. If there's any question at all, it's easy to refer them to us, and we'll answer the question.
And that's a great answer, because we want to, what you said, the triage, to do it, to start September 15th, right at the community board meeting, first meeting. That's more, to me, is that focus is there. And maybe later on in December, for those NABs, they could do the meet and greet when they're already established, and they have an idea of what they're doing.
Yeah, the meet and greet, it's flexible.
Okay.
What's not flexible is the election. The election has to happen now, because we have to have officers that are leading the board going into the 2019 community needs assessment. We have to have that. So that's what we're going to concentrate on this fall.
Excellent. Thank you. And
You're welcome.
Good
You're
answer.
welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Question?
Well, my only comment was, I think it's great to say who's calling the senator or some of these elected officials. Every single person in this room can pick up the phone and call that person and say, hey, I'm on the community board. We need someone appointed in this neighborhood. And that's part of the role. So excellent suggestion, and let's act on it.
Yeah. And that's Armenai Merritt. She's our new legal counsel from DYCD, in charge of the CSBG. So we'll say hello to her.
I don't see her.
She's all the way in the corner.
Please pick up your phone, call.
No, I don't let the pushes already come.
No, Cynthia's a master.
Any other questions? A lot of information.
Yes.
A lot of information. Thank you, Deputy Commissioner. Thank you, Anita. Any other questions on anything that was presented? Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion now. There's a question.
No, I thought we had our missing person, but we
Oh,
needed to
no
vote.
problem.
So I'm sorry. Vote, no.
Good. Thank you again. Entertain a motion now to accept the Deputy Commissioner's report. Been properly moved by Gideon Dunkley.
Second.
Second by David Alexander. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstaining, there being none, so moved. So next we're going to go, and thank you again for that presentation. We want to move the meeting along. We're going to go into our committee reports. I want to thank everyone that joined the committee. I know we talked about this the last couple of meetings, and we are seeing an increased participation in the committee. So we thank you for that. For those who are not on the committee, again, I urge you to be a part of the committee. A lot of the information and some of the facilitation that you're hearing today is born out of committee meetings. That's where you can really sit and delve into the weeds of some of the subjects that we're talking about. So I believe there's information about committees in your pamphlet again, if you want to know about the committees. But please, if you're not a part of the committee, I encourage you to join one. Unlike the full board meeting, committee meetings, where we would like you to be present, you can call into a committee meeting. There's conference call numbers for you to call into a committee meeting that doesn't require you to be physically there. And for those new members that just joined the CAB, in addition to the trainings that was explained earlier in the meeting, joining the committee also kind of helps you to kind of understand how the board works and some of the ins and outs of some of the subjects that we talk about. So it might be a good idea to take a look at that list to become more familiar with the committees. With that said, I'm going to pass the mic over to Linda, who's going to do a quick recap of the governance committee report.
Thank you, Greg. And, okay, good evening, everyone. The CAB Governance Committee met on Wednesday, August 22nd, and the minutes are in the CAB meeting packet. I'll give you the updates on CAB election and vacancies. Region 8, NDA, Manhattan 9 and 12. There are 3 potential candidates, and staff is awaiting submission of biographies to start the voting. 2, in November 2018, Region 7, NDA Manhattan 3 will become vacant and a search for candidates will begin. Candidates can be current or former NAB members. Absentee report. Nothing to report as this new program year begins with a clean slate, for all CAB members. Staff explained that according to the bylaws, members are allowed 1 excused absence during the program year, 1 excuse, y'all, September, and that's between September to June. After that, absences are counted, and 3 absences will terminate the member from the seat on the CAB. Got it? Old business. We don't want you to be absent at all. Old business. A discussion was had about National Night Out Against Crime events around the city and details about members' experiences that day. I'll just share mine real quickly. Mine's, our National Night Out was fantastic. Sorry to those who didn't have a tent. We had tents all over the place. So when it poured down rain, we just ran under the tent. And when the people came over to the tables, before I gave them anything, I explained to them what we do. Because you know, they wanted to come and get the little trinkets and toys or whatnot. I told them, no, this is what we do. This is, this is available. Because even though they're coming to get the little things on your table, it's important that they know what we do. Because they can take that information home, talk to their family members. We don't know who needs the service. So when they come to my table, I explain everything to them. Then I hand them the treats. Sorry, y'all, that I went off. The committee also discussed other events in which the CAB participates, such as the Spring Into Health Fairs, CAB trainings, SYEP worksite recruitment, local fairs, and more. Staff talked briefly about the upcoming CAB orientation in October and 2019 committee needs assessment that Anita spoke about too. Sorry. The governance committee deals with the behind-the-scenes mechanics of the CAB that are audited regularly by the New York State Department of State. The work includes drafting bylaws changes when necessary, providing a slate of candidates for CAB officers, and reviewing absences and vacancies. We don't want any absences or vacancies, everybody. If you'd like to get the nitty-gritty of what makes this board tick, then join the governance committee or just attend. But please join. You can join all the committees. The meetings are short and sweet. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Linda. Any questions on the governance committee report? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the report. Last time I had 5 people at one time. I'm done. Okay, so Ariel motion.
Second.
All right, properly seconded by David Alexander. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, Abstaining, there being none, so moved. Next up would be the program committee report by Tamika.
Hello, everyone. The CAB Program Committee met on Tuesday, August 14th, and you can refer to your package for the minutes. At the meeting, you had Mr. Nicole. Yes. He's the Deputy Director of the Literacy Program and presented on the Adolescent Literacy Program, which has 9 CBOs providing services across the city, 3 in Bronx, 2 in Brooklyn, 2 in Manhattan, 2 in Queens, and 1 in Staten Island. Many of the providers are operating as an after-school program with schools during the school year. And the students are middle school students, and they're from the 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. They come from a diverse background, and they come into the program with a 2nd grade reading level. That's very important, because what they're doing is, the aim is to get the students geared up for high school. So besides traditional instructions, these providers use a diverse strategy embedding literacy in fine arts, drama, film, technology, animation, culinary arts, gardening, and whatever the kids have as a basis of interest, so they can get them engaged in a program. It's instructional based, and it also provides programs that projects that they actually engage in. They use different strategies to keep the students engaged, and they prepare them, like I said, for high school. And it's not only just for the youth, it's actually for the parents too. The parents actually go on field trips with them, so it's more like a family-based program. That the program committee was, they said it was a lively committee. I was actually over the phone listening in, and it was dynamic. Every time I wanted to chime in, because I wasn't in person, someone had a question. There was a lot of information being shared. So I would encourage everybody to, even if you don't join the program committee, you can still come out to the meetings that we have to listen in, to learn more about the programs in your community, to see how the funds are being allocated, what priorities they have set for the programs. You learn you get a lot of the background information about the people who provide the service. It's always an engaging conversation. So the program committee, to me, not just because I'm the chairperson, but it's excellent. You know, I mean, when you come there, our conversations, they don't go they're not long, but you don't want it to end, because you receive a lot of information, especially about, like I said, the most important part to me is the service that the community is receiving. And so you also get a background, you get the background information about the funding and how the funding is given out to the program. So that's very important. If you have any questions about the programs, it's an excellent time for you to ask, the members of the program. They tell you how the programs are set up, how they're designed, who they're set to service. And a lot of times, I think one of the reasons why most of the members join, the CAB or the NAB, is to implement a change and represent your community. So it's important that if you can't make it out to every meeting in person, you can always call in, put your phone on mute and just listen in and take in the information and go back out into your community and talk about all the different programs that may be in another area that you may see a need for in your area. So I would encourage everybody to come out. So I'm hoping the next meeting, the same faces I see here today, I'll probably see every single one of them and more.
Actually, I don't think so. You're right, I love the, not to say I don't like the others.
David Alexander.
Yes, David Alexander. The other programs that we have.
You should use the mic, because I don't think I'll be etiquette.
I do like the program committee. It's a very useful committee. My question is, are these programs operated out of schools?
This particular program?
Yeah.
The one that we've been speaking of?
Yes.
This particular program is operated out of schools.
Okay. Because I've visited several schools in my community. I'm on the community board, youth committee. And what I do is go to schools, find out where kids' reading levels are lower than what they should be, whether there are any programs in those schools to improve their reading capability. So that the reading, math, all of those things that they need to move forward. And I've noticed that a lot of the schools have art programs, things like that you were mentioning, art and entertainment. But my question is, how much emphasis do they put on the literacy piece?
It's embedded in the program.
And do we measure to see whether those kids are coming up to the level that they need to be to move on to the next level of their education? Because I'm very concerned about that.
That's the goal, to get them ready for high school. So if they're coming in, it's very targeted. Their second grade reading level is how they come into the program. And they leave with at least an 8th grade reading level. So that's progress, right?
I just want to
So
make
it's very targeted. We can give you a list of the sites of where this particular program, adolescent literacy, is.
Okay, because I'm in Brownsville, so
Yeah, no, but
Brownsville
there's
is very, the educational piece
There's
there
two
is
programs in
terrible.
Brooklyn.
Yeah, two programs.
Yes.
See,
There's
that's
two
another-
programs in Brooklyn, so we can send you.
Yes,
We can
please.
send you the list of all of them.
Okay.
We can send it to everybody, to the whole academy.
Yeah, that program, it's not they don't service all the schools. So in each, like, for example, the Bronx had the most schools that they service. It was only 3. You can imagine how many schools are in, you could just imagine how many schools are in each borough. And they're only capable right now of servicing 3. So the program is not, you can tell just by.
So they're not
that-
spread.
No, it's not a large program. You could always reach out to them and see, maybe they have partnerships.
Yeah.
This is one program. There may be a program like this similar in your community.
Okay, so please send me the information. I'll explore it.
Just a quick follow-up, since you're grabbing input from him, I think part of the question he was looking at was, what is the efficacy of the programs as opposed to just sort of what the programs are? So I know for adult literacy, one of the ways they do is they do annual evaluations of programs to see what sort of skill gain was made in a year. And so maybe that's also data that can see sort of how the providers are in terms of.
I don't have the information.
Oh, for sure, I'm just saying in terms of the follow-up.
That's how all the programs are evaluated.
Right, I was only saying the question was, is it evaluated? And so the answer is yes, and so it's just saying it would be helpful to share.
All of our programs, that's what we do. Contract
My point was that was the
We have
question.
to evaluate. Yeah.
My point was his question was, are they evaluated and could he get that information, so suggesting as opposed to just the list of the programs? Maybe we could actually see the evaluation data, because I think that's what he's trying to get at, are the programs effective?
So I think part of the mic,
Mike is telling you that.
this is, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there, Sandra.
You didn't see me.
But I know this is part of what Mike, in terms of the reports, right, the measurements,
Yes.
right?
So when Mike does his end of year report, he'll do something that has to do with all our literacy programs. So we have an annual review that we have to hand to the state, and every program that is funded through CSBG, we have to give outcomes for it. The state is very clear about it wants as outcomes, and we obviously, the same way that we expect the CBOs to meet the outcomes that that they set out, the state also holds us accountable to that. I do want to acknowledge, first, to answer your question, the adolescent programs, we have very few. And in fact, over, how many years would you say that the funding for literacy dwindled? For like the last?
Decade?
The last decade. And, I forgot your first name.
Kevin.
Kevin Douglas, has been really one of the people who has done incredible advocacy on literacy programs. And because of the advocacy that he and other people like him at the mayor's office, with the city council, we were able to get more money for these programs over the last 2 years. My guess is that you're going to continue to do that work in combination with the DYCD. But what we're seeing play out here is a conversation about how does this advocacy then play out at the community level? And David, you asked a really good question. Where are these programs? How many are they? That's the reason why all the work that we do in the NAB does is so important, because without knowing that there's not enough of these adolescent programs, then Kevin and others like Kevin cannot advocate with government for these programs to get funded. We've had great success with them, but we don't have enough money for literacy. And we know that literacy programs are incredibly important, not just because we want an educated society, but because if you don't have educated people, then they can't get jobs, and that causes a whole bunch of other problems that we don't really want. But we really do believe foundationally that we have a right to education and to be literate, and that everyone does, no matter where you come from or whatever. So we commend you, Kevin, for all the work that you've done, and I know there's a big group of you that have done. Every time that we say literacy, Kevin will be there. And so I'm glad that this question came up, so I had an opportunity to acknowledge you.
Thank you. Any other questions on the program committee report? If not, I'll entertain a motion now to accept the report.
So moved.
It's been properly moved by Linda Walters, second by David Alexander. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Abstaining, there being none, so moved. And the last report will be the strategic partnership report by Ariel.
So that was actually a very good segue into the Strategic Partnerships Committee report. As we actually discussed most of the things that we talked about on August 23rd, so I won't go into so much detail, but one of the things that the Strategic Partnerships Committee is really involved with is the NAB Ambassador Project, and that's how we know that literacy is an extremely high needs subject in most of the NABs. I think the majority of them, that was one of the highest needs, so that's something that we're going to continue looking at. We discussed the SYP program. You already heard the amazing work that was done. We had 74,000 youth participate and almost 14,000 work sites. We're going to start even earlier this year, so in January we're going to be talking about trying to figure out how we can recruit more work sites. And the CAB is very instrumental in recruiting the work sites. Also discussed earlier in this meeting was the NAB recruitment, which is a huge issue right now in some of the areas, and we continue to talk about how to create these strategic partnerships so that we can fill the boards and they can really play the role that they're meant to play. So we definitely hear you. Something that we've really been talking about a lot at our meetings. So I would encourage you all to come to figure out how we can actually fill the slots and to play a role in that recruitment. If you know any of your elected officials, if you know any people who live in those neighborhoods who would be just really great advocates for services, definitely let us know, and we hope to create even more partnerships this year. We heard about the National Night Out Against Crime and the Crazy Monsoon. So thank you for those of you who came out. I hope you all had tents. And we talked about Gian's great work on the board, so thank you for everything that you've done, and we hope that we'll continue to see you around. That is pretty much the update. If you like to talk to people, if you like to create partnerships, if you want to think about how we can get even more people involved in the sport, then come to our next meeting.
Thank you, Ariel. Any questions on the strategic partnership committee report? Great. Not, accept the motion to accept that report.
So moved.
Probably moved.
Second,
Okay.
Tamika Robinson.
David Alexander, second by Tamika Robinson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstaining, there being none, so moved. So as we start to close out the meeting, in terms of old business, again, thank you all for attending this meeting, for allowing us to have a quorum at this meeting. I know it seems like we talk about quorum a lot, but we all know the new guidelines enacted by the state and achieving quorum for this meeting that was enacted back in October. There's a strict rule that we have to follow. Our last meeting was the first meeting ever that we didn't have quorum. So while I understand things may come up, please try your best to make the meeting to account for those times you may not make it when things really do come up. I would hate to continue to pass off resolutions and topics that we need to vote on that's important and pass to the next meeting. We've done a tremendous amount of great work over the last 3 years in particular, and we want to keep that up. So please try your best to make the meeting. We've talked about the committees that are here. Please try your best to join the committee. You may have been handed a contact information form. If so, please fill that out. If it seems like that's distributed every couple of meetings, it may be, but we have a lot of new members. We constantly want to update the contact list so that everyone here gets all the information that is needed and is part of that distribution list. So please, even if you think you filled it out previously, fill it out again and hand it to a member of DYCD. Any other old business that anyone needs to discuss at this point?
Did anyone come in late who wasn't here at roll call?
Yes, please. If you came later in the meeting, we want to make sure your attendance is noted. All right, so in the form of new business, the whistleblower protection, the receipt of the local law number 33, you all should have a copy of that as well. That was given out at the door. If you don't have a copy, again, please see a member of DYCD. A listing of the CAB trainings is in the packet. This is something that we stressed over the last 3 years. It has been extremely beneficial. We have the new member training that's scheduled. So for all those new members, you really should take advantage of it. That's really going to help you understand this board, this body, the governance of this body, and how you can impact the board and your community. And then there's the list of the other CAB trainings that are in there, including the Roma training. The committee flyer is in there as well. And upcoming events. I've mentioned this in previous meetings, but if you have upcoming events in your community, if you're representing an elected official and there's some things that are happening, we want to know about it. Let us know. Send information to DYCD. You can email me. We'd be happy to share it at this meeting. There's a lot of great things that are happening within your own communities that I think will be beneficial to other members and other, parties that are part of this board. So if you have anything that's happening in your community, please let us know. We'll help you share the information and promote it. Is Mike Bobbitt still here? Yeah, Mike, you want to talk a little bit about, is it September 18th, the fathers take your child to school?
Well, you said it. September 18th is Dad's Take a Shot. Oh, I'll say one thing.
Yeah.
September 18th
Well, I know you always want to add a spin.
Thank you. Well, we do have a spin. September 18th is Dad's Take a Child to School, but one of the things that the commissioner impressed upon the staff last year is since we're so well known for after school, shouldn't we be having the dads picking their kids up from after school as well? So September 18th is also, I'm going to get the name wrong because it's new, but it's basically dads visit your child after school as well. So we'll have a press release soon. I'll make sure the staff sends it out to the CAB members. So we'll be celebrating Dads Take Your Child to School in the Bronx, one of our cornerstones, and we'll be walking the kids to one of the Sonic programs. But that afternoon, some folks will also be going out to Staten Island to celebrate kind of the agency's first ever official dads pick up your kids from after school. So we'll send that to everybody.
Okay, great, thank you. Is there any other events anyone want to mention before we close out the meeting? Anything happening that you would like to share? Yes, Anita, can you pass this mic to the young lady in the middle? Or you can take the one from the podium. If you want to go to the podium, you can do that.
Okay.
Yes.
I think I'm loud enough, but...
Okay, well, just state your name so everyone knows.
Okay, hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Bria Grade. I'm here representing along with Brittany Burchell for Councilmember Andy King. And this Friday coming, we're having our back to school out of the pool event, which is basically encouraging students in the community to start, getting back in the routine of studying in school and get their minds off of summer. And that's pretty much what's happening this Friday. So we're asking, just whoever can attend just to support, that would be great. And it's really for students, but just wanted to let you guys know what we have coming up, and that's this Friday.
Is tomorrow Friday?
So next Friday, I'm sorry. Next week, Friday, September 14th at 10 a.m. at Evander Childs High School football field. That's at 800 East Gun Hill Road, 10 to 2 p.m.
Flyer.
Oh, sure, I can, maybe I can extend the flyer to Anita and she can blast it out. Okay, so I'll do that.
If you can do that, that'll be great.
Okay, have a good evening, everyone.
All right, thank you for letting us know. Anybody else?
Yes, just want to, my name is Cynthia Cox, I'm from the Bronx, but I want to share with everyone, on Saturday, they're going to have the march. DC 37 Union is going to be marching, and you guys all invited. Yes, we all invited to the march. It's very important. Thank you.
Where is it?
It's going to be 45th Street in Manhattan.
And what?
Fifth Avenue. Yeah, the Union, DC 37. So you can go online and look it up. So you can definitely be. We're going to come and be a part of it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm David Alexander. On September 8th, beginning at 12 to 5, we're having a back to school extravaganza, if you will, at Betsy Head Park in Brooklyn on Dumont and Bristol Street. So if anybody's interested in coming, let us know. They're giving school bags away and information about community events that we're having, upcoming community events that we're having. So if you're interested, it's Brownsville, it's on Dumont and, what did I say, Dumont and Bristol, September 8th.
What time?
12 to 5.
Great. So let's make this a habit to share at the meeting so everyone knows what's going on. Sunday, September 9th, the Giants play the Jaguars. Oh, I'm sorry, I got distracted. That's only for me. Yeah, sorry about that. All right. If that's it, I'll entertain a motion now to conclude the meeting.
So moved.
The properly moved, David Alexander.
Second.
Second, just state your name.
Ellen Porter.
That's right. Oh, I should have said that. All right, the meeting's officially adjourned. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you all. Have a great fall. We'll see you at the next.